Two men who know the angles, uncover and untangle all the questions and the webs left out to tangle. I'll be in 1962, last Wednesday's afternoon. They'll bend your ears with reckless self-abandon. The amazing spider talk. The amazing spider talk. Come swing through the air, sit back and prepare for the amazing spider
Hello, I'm Dapper Dan Gavassan, and I own every issue of Amazing Spider-Man, including the annuals, which definitely count.
And I'm Mischievous Mark Chinacchio, and I own every issue of Amazing Spider-Man, but the annuals don't count.
Well, either way, thank you for joining us for a special episode of the all-new Amazing Spider Talk. We hope you enjoy this podcast and that it provides an intelligent conversation between two fans and collectors as we look at the Spider-Man comic universe in a bit of a bigger picture. So if you want to learn everything that we know about Spidey, why not subscribe to our show starting back with the first season?
Today on the show, Dan and I are excited to announce all the details about Season 4 of our show and some of the major changes that are coming for the format of Amazing Spider Talk. But first, Dan, I thought maybe you and I can kind of address the elephant in the room, or the 800-pound Hulk in the room, I guess, which is the unfortunate, the COVID-19 coronavirus situation and how that affects us and our show and our listeners and what have you.
Yeah, sure. So I don't know, starting off, Mark, you and I are both under not quarantine, but self-imposed isolation. Yeah.
Yeah. For the most part, I would say.
Yeah. I mean, as so should you, if you're listening to this, it is wise advice, I think, that everyone should be kind of social distancing. And, Mark, what better way to social distance than, for you and I to talk over Skype, but to listen to podcasts and dive in deep with friendly adult voices that aren't coming to your house and coughing on you.
Yeah. I mean, especially when we're talking about the superhero that probably social distance himself from other superheroes more than anyone, right? I mean, isn't that kind of Spider-Man's entire trademark?
Yeah, exactly. Well, the other trademark is with great power, there must also come great responsibility. And I think, in regards to this, I was thinking about this the other day because for some reason, Spider-Man's always in my mind. Can you believe that, Mark?
I can. 100% can.
You see people saying I'm young and I'm not going to get sick from this thing. And so I'm going to enjoy my life. And I think part of that being healthy is your responsibility to other people and taking care of your, responsibility of distancing yourself and not spreading this to other people. And so that's kind of where I'm at. And I guess for me, if I can get more people to behave that way, and we can also kind of provide a platform for people to come together, even if they're not in person, that's kind of what I want this show to operate as in these trying times. I mean, I know I wasn't planning on doing this season 4 introduction episode this week, but I felt if we could give people something to read and enjoy and keep up with and join us on this journey, I think it's, needed now more than ever. It's not much, but if I can do a little bit to make people happy and this time, that feels good to me.
Yeah. I mean, I would say at this time where things seem to be changing almost by the hour in terms of how we're supposed to go about and live our lives, I think the one thing that we might be able to offer in our own way is a little bit of stability in terms of we're here. We're going to be talking about what's to come in the coming weeks and months for this show. And that's, God willing, that's not going to change. So, why don't we just kind of enjoy that and dive into it?
Yeah, and I would also say, if you're someone that listens to the show and Mark and I are just kind of distant voices to you, or maybe you consider us friends from a distance, we don't have an actual relationship, as is true with most of our listeners and us. I think we've met only a handful of you. But if you ever need anything, or, you need, just to call in and talk about Spider-Man or something on our voicemail line, hopefully, you can feel like you have friends in us, to be sympathetic to you through this crisis, because we're going to need all of each other to get through this for the months that this ends up becoming. So I just wanted to say that too. Like, don't hesitate to reach out if you are someone who needs another voice in their life. To that point, let's talk about the kind of normalcy of things here. And we're going to be talking about season 4. And maybe the most abnormal thing about this is we're not dragging our feet on this. We're gonna do this.
We promise.
Season 4. So during season 4 of Amazing Spider Talk, we're going to be taking a look at Spider-Man's world from the late 70s to the early 80s. We're going to go into detail on 2 of the most overlooked runs of all of Amazing Spider-Man. At least I think it's safe to categorize them that way. Even though they had superstar creators, we're going to look at these really kind of overlooked runs.
And then we're going to team up to binge 2 television shows that push Spider-Man even deeper into the mainstream culture.
We're going to marvel at some of the hottest young creators who readers met for the first time during this era.
Dish on the behind-the-scenes brinksmanship that was reshaping the editorial offices of Marvel.
And we're going to even touch on some of the stranger spin-off series that expanded Spider-Man's universes. And I say that plural for a reason.
Nice. So anyway, we're going to lay out the episodes from season 4 so you can join us. Refer back to this episode for a guide on how to follow along. Things could possibly change, but for the most part, this is our plan. It's going to be a shorter season than normal with only 8 episodes. So, Dan, we got to be able to do 8 episodes in less than a year and a half, right?
I would hope so. And the 8 episodes, there's several reasons for it. We're going to get to some of those later in this episode, in that Mark and I are rolling out a bunch of big changes for the show. And we thought a smaller season about a smaller era of time for this character was kind of the good time for us to kind of like rework how the show works. And we hope you guys enjoy the changes. But let's just start off, Mark. What's the first episode of this season going to be about?
We're going to kick the season off talking about the Marv Wolfman run on Amazing Spider-Man, which took place between issues 182 to 206. Marv Wolfman's probably one of the biggest comic creators out there, and yet probably his Spider-Man contributions are, might be one of the most overlooked things that he's done. I mean, he's written Teen Titans, and he did Crisis on the Infinite Earths for DC. He would go on to create Spider-Woman for Marvel. I mean, all these different things. But for Spider-Man, I mean, there were some significant things that happened during his run, such as the breakup of Peter Parker and Mary Jane, and the death of the burglar. And these are among the things that we're going to talk about during that episode.
So we're going to follow that up with our second episode, which only makes sense because 2 comes after 1. That episode is going to be all about the Denny O'Neil run of Amazing Spider-Man. If you want to read that, it's from issues 207 to 223. And Mark, I dare say, I think the Denny O'Neil run on Spider-Man might be the most overlooked run on Spider-Man. Like, I would say even Howard Mackey's stuff is probably more referenced than some of the stuff in this run. I mean, he came on, and we'll get into it. I think his sensibility for the character was just different than anybody who came before him.
Yeah, and again, similar to Marv Wolfman, although I would say Denny O'Neil's best work probably preceded his run on Spider-Man. I mean, Denny O'Neil was a all-star of the industry at this point. He had written some really significant issues of Batman and Green Lantern, and here was this all-star being kind of poached from the competition, and it led to this very unique run on Spider-Man, which, like you said, is kind of tonally and characteristically different than anything that preceded it.
So what's coming up next after that?
We've done this for 3 seasons already. We got to do a bad guy episode, but this one we're going to call The Forgettable Guys. So this is going to be another episode that focuses on some of the villains that were introduced or maybe recrafted a bit during this run. So that's going to focus on all those issues of Amazing Spider-Man we just talked about, as well as Spectacular Spider-Man number 18 through 61.
Because there was a bunch of weird villains introduced in that book, too, that we thought might be worth giving a shout out. So after that, we're going to be looking at some television shows. And, actually, pretty fortunately for us, with this new Disney Plus service, It has both the Spider-Man cartoon from the early 80s and Spider-Man and His Amazing Friends, which are two different series, even though people like to lump them together. And we're going to be talking about both of those series, the television shows, and we'll be doing some crazy binges on that. And I'm actually really keen on revisiting it because I think the first Spider-Man cartoon I ever saw was an episode of Spider-Man and His Amazing Friends. And it'll be nice to look back on that with some hindsight.
After that, we're going to be doing an artist-centric episode. Now, we did our Ross Andrew episode in season 3, Dan, but this time, a lot of these runs weren't kind of defined by the work of a single artist. And yet, when you look back at the names of those who contributed artwork to the Spider-Man titles during this era, you had some really big names. So some of these artists include Frank Miller, John Romita Jr., Keith Pollard, Al Milgrom, Bob McLeod, Jim Mooney, John Byrne, Mike Zeck, and Marie Severin. I mean, there are some true legends in that list there, and they all worked on Spider-Man during this era, which is pretty cool.
After that, we're going to do an episode all about Spider-Woman, and we're going to talk mostly about the entire run of Volume 1. Maybe not issue by issue, but more about Spider-Woman in general and what she represented as a character and the history behind that. But like, this is the first really heavyweight spin-off Spider character, and we thought it was worth discussing.
Following that, we're going to be doing an episode, and Dan, I'm really excited when you proposed this as an episode idea, because this is one of my favorite like kind of offshoots of Spider-Man that are out there. We're going to be talking about the What If series, and you know, we're going to be talking about it specifically from some of the Spider-Man centric episodes, which is issues 1, 7, 19, 23, 24, 30, 34, and 46. But I think the broader context that we're going to talk about this at is, you know, What If is essentially a series that looks at alternative universes and timelines, and what would, you know, if different things happened in the Marvel universe, what would have happened. You know, we're coming off of, you know, Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse and the multiverse, and of course the Spider-Verse storyline from a few years ago by Dan Slott. So this is, but What If is like the introduction to multiversal Spider-Man, wouldn't you say, Dan?
Yeah, absolutely. So like, some of the stories we're going to be covering is like, what if Spidey joined the FF? What if like any number of stories where someone else became Spider-Man? What if Gwen Stacy was rescued? What if like the clone had lived? I mean, a lot of these would go on to become real stories in Spider-Man, which will be interesting to be talking about. You know, like, what if Spidey joined the FF? Happened. What if someone else got bitten by the spider? Happened. What if Spidey rescued Gwen Stacy? I guess that hasn't really happened. What if the clone survived? Happened. You know, there's a lot of stuff, you know, and in these stories, like, what if Uncle Ben had lived? That's like the first Ron Friend Spider-Man story. So that'll be fun to kind of cover.
How are we going to wrap the season up, Dan?
Yeah, we're doing one that I think is really much in your wheelhouse, Mark, which is kind of an episode on editorial shifting, or like the kind of behind the scenes of what was going on at Marvel at this time, because things were really kind of like up in the air. You've got like Jim Shooter coming in and shaking everything up and kind of saving the company for like a brief period of time. You know, you get Tom DeFalco first coming into Marvel, and Roger Stern gets brought into the Spider-Man office, and he's doing books for them. So there's just kind of a lot going on. You know, we'll use this as an opportunity, I think, to talk about Roger Stern's run on Spectacular Spider-Man before we get to our next season, which will be very Roger Stern centric.
Yeah, Palace Intrigue, Dan. You know how much I love that Palace Intrigue.
Yeah, so that's the season. That's all 8 episodes. You feel free to use this episode as a reference for, you know, all the episodes and what you need to read to keep up. I mean, you don't need to read it, but like, if you want to join us and you find yourself with a lot of time now because you become a shut-in, like, hey, look, this is you know, some fun homework for you to do.
This episode wouldn't be possible without the support from our wonderful Patreon subscribers, whose patronage allows us to assemble the guests we have on the show and do all of our research. If you enjoy the show and want to help us continue, while also getting amazing bonus content and additional episodes that we never release publicly, go to our show notes and check out our Patreon page and consider joining our team.
Now, what about some of the other changes that are coming this season, Dan?
Yeah, we're going to be doing a ton of new stuff in this short season to kind of like change up things here at Amazing Spider Talk. You know us, we're never content on kind of resting on our laurels. We're changing our format all the time. Hell, we even changed our name a few times. So here we are doing it again. And a bunch of these things have been things we've wanted to do for a long time, but this seemed like the right time to do it after it took us forever to finish season 3. And really, I think the big one is Mark and I are going to be way more on schedule than we have in the past. We've got this calendar we're cooking with now. I know that sounds very not sexy, but we heard your cries about how long season 3 was, and we're here to really deliver the content in a more regular fashion than we did before.
Yeah, baby, calendars. But no, there's more than just calendars coming. I mean, now here's the other one. Now, I don't know if this is actually something y'all are demanding or clamoring for. I but we're gonna try it anyway, and that is video integration into our show. Tell us a little bit about what that's going to be like, Dan.
I don't know how I tricked you into doing this, Mark, but we're going to do this. We're going on the air, and we are doing live broadcasts of all of our seasonal episodes of Amazing Spider Talk. So we will announce on Twitter, on Facebook, on all of our social media platforms, a time where Mark and I are going to be on the air, and you can come join us and watch us record the episodes and join in a comments feed. So you can comment. We'll get to read what you have to say, and maybe we'll add it into the show. We want to have more ways for you guys to interact with us and get to know us. And so you can come and hang out with Mark and I on our Sunday nights when we record these and have a really great time. It's going to be on YouTube. So if you really want to get in early, go on YouTube and subscribe to our channel where we'll be hosting it. You can also go to amazingspidertalk.com, that completely rebuilt page. I rebuilt it specifically for video. So you can go there, and the front page will be Mark and I talking live and interacting with you right from amazingspidertalk.com. So I think this is really exciting, Mark. I mean, I'm sure this is going to be, years of refinement, but boy, there's something kind of fun about bringing people into the process, because I look at you every time we record this. Why don't we just let people see us too?
May God have mercy on their souls, Dan. That's all I can say.
Well, I don't even know if we have voices for radio, but now we're about to really figure out if we have faces for radio.
There we go. Now, the other thing, I don't know if this is truly a new thing, but it's something that we want to bring back in a bigger way, which is the 9 Red Goblin hotline. You heard it. It's the original Red Goblin, Dan. You call us at 9 Red Goblin and leave us a message about any of the topics that we're discussing. If we like your message and it's about the topic we were discussing, that you'll probably open the show. That's right. You'll be our cold open for Amazing Spider Talk. And then other messages we will also play at the end of our show. So if you want to get on the air, call 9 Red Goblin. We're bringing it back. It's not Norman Osborn. It's the original Red Goblin, which is our phone line. Call it and have some fun with it.
Yeah, and that starts right now. So you've heard our topics, right? You can call in about any of those topics and get your thing, and I'll be collecting them and saving them for the right episode. So if you're joining along with us, you're reading, or you have early thoughts about the TV shows or Spider-Woman, now's your time to call in and leave us messages. I save them, and I'm going to edit them into the show. But that also goes for single issues of Amazing Spider-Man. If you read this week's issue, Amazing Spider-Man number 41, and you loved it or you hated it and you want us to know what you think, call in. We're going to be editing those into every episode now. So the more you call in, the more this will become a thing, and the more we can kind of hear what you guys think. We really feel okay, it's Mark and I giving our opinion, but after a while, I'm not lonely. Mark, you're the ultimate partner for this thing, but it would be nice to have a community that's a part of this as well. So we know you're out there, so give us a call, 9 Red Goblin.
What else is coming for us, Dan?
Way back when we first started doing the Patreon, we used to do these monthly giveaways and prizes, or even before the Patreon. And we kind of want to do that again. So we're going to be kind of coming up, Mark and I are going to come up with a list of cool prizes related to, the topic that we're discussing on the show. So probably from the Denny O'Neil run or whatever. And we're going to be sending out prizes every month. We're going to do these big raffles at the end of the show that they're exclusive to Patreon members, but like get ready for some good prizes coming in every few episodes or so. And I think that's going to be really exciting. Mark, I'm really excited about this next thing. I'm going to let you start it off. Tell me about this other thing we're doing.
I know. Well, you've been sending me stuff, teasing it to me, Dan. This is really cool. We have employed the artistic services and talents of Nick Cagnetti, who has done some previous work for us. Correct, Dan?
Yeah, he did a lot of the kind of like old bumpers that we used to have where we used, I guess I still use them every now and again of Spider-Man in some scenario. He used to do the spectacular Spider Snark on our website with Kyle Kreis. But now he's going to be doing for special artwork for us, new banners for every seasonal episode. So he's going to be like hand drawing, and I'm already getting them in, and they look amazing. Like artwork specifically crafted for every single seasonal episode of our show. It's really exciting. So everybody will get to see those in their small format when we send out each new episode. But it will be extra special because for our $10 a month Patreon members, they're going to get high-res desktop images from Nick, which over time will build a huge library of artwork. Even just this season, you're going to get 8 pieces of artwork that you can use as a desktop background. And then each season, our Patreon members are going to vote on which of the artwork is their favorite. And when I send out prints of commissioned artwork from Spider-Man artists, you're going to also get one of Nick's, whatever the favorite one is. So, I mean, it's going to be hard to choose because the stuff I've seen so far is already gorgeous. So I hope you guys get excited about that. I think it's going to make each episode of our show feel even more special because not only you're getting an episode from Mark and I, you're going to get this awesome artwork from Nick.
Now, speaking of artwork, the other cool thing we're going to announce this season, Dan, is our seasonal commissioned artwork is going to be from Max Fiumara, and he's going to be doing a commission of Nothing Can Stop the Juggernaut for us. How exciting is that?
That's really exciting, Mark. If people don't know who Max Fiumara is, because he's not really like a common Spider-Man artist. What would people know him from?
Well, we would know him from one of your favorite stories of all time, correct? That's that 2-parter with the Rhino by Joe Kelly.
Yeah, it's the Rage of the Rhino story. He did that with like Oksana and all that stuff. I mean, that book is beautiful to look at, and we thought, we wanted to do a Nothing Can Stop the Juggernaut commission, and who better to do it? Well, better than JR than Max Fiumara, who did that amazing Rhino story. Because like 2 big forces of Earth, like we're really excited. So that's going to be coming this summer. He's promised me that he's going to deliver it in June and July. So that's going to be going out to our Patreon members. And I'm really excited about that. Mark, we have another big change coming in regards to our format. What are we doing differently?
Well, I know that people have kind of gotten used to our review roundups, which have kind of been like an aggregation of all of the individual reviews we've been doing on our Patreon account. Well, we're not going to do that anymore. Instead, we're going to just be releasing single episode reviews 6 weeks after they first debut on the Patreon account. So, if you're not a Patreon subscriber, you still got to wait a bit to hear us talk about the newest issue of Spider-Man. But rather than getting this big, huge dump of content with some of these episodes are like 2 hours long, Dan, we're going to make them a little more manageable for you in your podcast feed and release them every 6 weeks.
And that means we get to artificially boost the number of episodes that you and I have recorded, or maybe not artificially. Like, I think if we had been doing this, we would be approaching like episode 300 right now. But instead, we're like barely, crossing 250. So, get ready for us to have more 5-hour-long 100 Centennial episodes.
This is like us going from double shipping to triple shipping. We are in brand new day territory now, Dan.
There you go. So that's really exciting. We also kind of want to, if you're a Patreon member, release some of our seasonal content episodes a little bit early. That's going to rely on Rick, our editor, and how quickly he can put those together. But I'm committing that if you're a Patreon member and I get an episode from Rick early, I'm going to upload it there so you guys can get it early and enjoy it before everybody else. So I think that's going to be really exciting as well. Mark, here's one that's a real hypothetical that we'd like to do, and I guess I'm more like curious about the temperature of this is, back for our 200th episode, we did a big meetup at Mohegan Sun, or really it was just us, and turned into a really fun meetup with a bunch of people. We'd like to do this more often, do meetups and stuff. So I would say if the coronavirus ever lifts, stay tuned to this podcast because you might hear us scheduling some kind of meetup at a Comic-Con.
Yeah, but yeah, I think it would be premature to set any dates right now. But
No. I think you would have heard a date if the coronavirus hadn't hit in this episode. Yeah,
unfortunately. But, hopefully, yeah.
So here it all is in a nutshell, right, Mark? We've got, the Patreon, and we're doing video stuff is free to everybody, but the Patreon, is really becoming like so much more. We're putting so much more content there. So like if you give us $1 a month, you're going to get mentioned at the end of every one of our videos in scrolling text. And at the end of a year, you're going to get a pin sent to your home designed like the MMMS pins that they used to give out. That's the Mighty Marvel Marching Society, or Merry Marvel Marching Society, rather. For $3.99 a month, you're going to get all those new episodes and an invitation to Patreon live feed recording. So that's being with us when we review all of the Amazing Spider-Man new comics. And you'll be allowed to submit questions that Mark and I are going to answer on the show. And for $10 a month, you're going to get 2 raffle tickets in our raffle each month, a print from a Spider-Man artist, this time Max Fiumara, and Nick Cagnetti's digital copies of his work. So that's really exciting. And then again, for the top tier, $20 a month, you get 4 raffle tickets and all that artwork colored, which is really beautiful. So you can't pass up on that opportunity. We just threw a lot of information at you, but the main point is, Mark, we're doing a ton of new stuff for the show that we're really excited about. And we hope that everybody that's listening is equally excited, and that if you are excited about it, that you dive into this journey with us, because I think we're going to lose money doing all of this, but we want to make it special. And if you guys want us to do all this stuff and you feel like it's worthwhile, consider helping us out so that we can make this not just for season 4.
Well, thanks again, everyone, for joining us for this special episode of the all-new Amazing Spider Talk. Dan, we just laid a lot out, so me asking what's coming next, it sounds like everything's coming next, right?
Yeah, there's a lot coming, but you never know what's going to happen during our hiatus. The world could end tomorrow. We don't know for certain, but we are planning that all of this stuff is going to kick off on April 22nd. That's the kickoff date for season 4 of Amazing Spider Talk. So that's like a little more than a month out. So Mark and you and I have a lot of research to do, but boy, no better time to do that research when you're stuck at home. So whether you plan on reading along with us or not, look forward to that date, April 22nd, as the target date for our new content.
Dan, if you could see me in my seat right now, which you can't because we're not on video yet, you would see I am on the edge of it waiting for this all to start. I'm very excited. I'm looking forward to diving back into some of this content. Some of these books I haven't read in years personally, Dan. And Spider-Man is Amazing Friends. I've watched a few episodes, but I don't think I've ever binged the whole series. So, research is fun, man. I'm looking forward to it, and I'm looking forward to being able to talk to everyone else about it.
So don't forget, you too can join in the conversation this season. Just call 9 Red Goblin and leave us a message about the show. We'd love to hear from you and hear your voice on the show. If you call in with your thoughts on any of our topics from season 4, we may feature your message at the start of the show. So don't forget, it's 9 Red Goblin. Be sure to let us know your name and where you're calling from too, because we don't want just anonymous voices. We want to know who you are.
Also, if you are one of our Patreon members, remember the best way to get any of your questions answered by us on the show is by joining our Patreon. Just click on the link in the podcast description or head on over to AmazingSpiderTalk.com. This week, our Patreon subscribers can check their Patreon exclusive podcast feed for a special review of Amazing Spider-Man number 41.
Excellent, Mark. Well, if you want to tune in to the next episode or dig through our catalog, know that you can always enjoy the show on iTunes, Spotify, YouTube, or your podcast player of choice over at AmazingSpiderTalk.com. We'd love to have you along for our journey through Spidey's past, present, and future. Just head on over to AmazingSpiderTalk.com for all the details about where to subscribe. Mark, speaking of subscribing, where can we find you on the World Wide Webs this week?
Well, you can always find me at Chasing ASM blog on Twitter. And of course, Chasing ASM is shorthand for the original blog where it started for me, Dan. That's chasingamazingblog.com. And then you could also always check out my book, 100 Things Spider-Man Fans Should Know and Do Before They Die. What about yourself?
Is there a big link on your website for your book?
Maybe. There probably should be. There's a pinned tweet on Twitter to get my book, so there's that.
There you go, everybody. As for me, you can find me on Twitter at @SupSpiderTalk, where I'm talking about Spider-Man all the time, and I'm going to be cataloging a lot of my thoughts about these runs as I go through them. Like I like to, steal pictures from the digital pages and post them on Twitter. So, if you're reading along with us, that might be a good place to kind of get some laughs and see some kind of like little behind the scenes stuff over on my Twitter. And then I have to always give a plug for AmazingSpiderTalk.com again, because that's where the magic really happens. So go check out that awesome new site. And then I'll point you as well to our sister show, The Untold Talks of Spider-Man, where they're talking about, I don't even know what at this point, but some great Spider-Man ephemera that was lost to time and we're rediscovering. And that's always fun, good for a laugh. During the coronavirus, if you're feeling lonely, like I said earlier, we've got the amazing Spider Slack community. It's a great place to go to kind of talk to other Spider-Man fans. We actually were talking about the coronavirus in there, and what people are doing. So we're just trying to kind of keep touch with each other and make sure everybody is being safe. So check out this episode's description for a link to join up with that community.
A special thank you to Rick Coast, our amazing, spectacular, adjectiveless web of editor who cut together this very episode. Rick, why don't you tell us a little bit more about yourself and where we can find your work?
Hey, you can check out a lot of my work over at rickcoast.com. I'm also releasing a new show. It's actually an old show that I'm bringing back. It ran between 2013 and 2015, and it's all about stories concerning the paranormal, things that go bump in the night, UFOs, you name it. It's called Rick Coast's Strange Encounters, and you can find out more about it and subscribe to the show at strangeencounters.org. That's strangeencounters.org. Thanks. Back to you, Dan and Mark.
Awesome. Thanks, Rick. Well, Mark, let's bring this into a close with the motto we're always sure to remember. So take it away.
With great podcasts, there must also come the all-new Amazing Spider Talk.
Don't miss the next installment.
Season 4.
Boom. It's happening.